Emotional eating. How many pounds of hurt and anger are we truly consuming daily? Find out what many are learning in my group, 100 Days of Discipline Journey group, a place where I teach self-discipline. We uncover the roots of what is hindering us from discipline using the internal family systems model of parts work by Dr. Richard Schwartz. We also discover the power of practice and how to bend to the wheel of discipline. Find out my favorite soup and the ingredients to this great love potion for self. My name is Portia Brantley. I am your parts work and unburdening meditation liaison. Why 100 Days of Discipline? On December 18th, 2020, I set upon a journey 100 days to my 50th birthday. I wanted to see what truly I could discipline over time. I gave up something that I do almost daily. And that one thing was the love of spirits, wine and spirits. So for 100 days, I set a time aside to do this, not just with myself, but with many others. I channeled social media, and many began to jump on board with this 100 Days of Discipline journey. This discipline journey not only was a discipline for setting aside something like what I did, but every person's journey was just a little different. We talked a lot about emotional eating and appetites. And for me, it was the appetite to discipline and the habit of my spirits. Wine and spirits. Many others wanted to discipline themselves and chastising themselves to meditate each day. Some wanted to discipline their money and spending habits. All of these are a form of emotional eating, ingesting the things that we do to soothe the soul. However, oftentimes, when soothing in this way, lack of discipline takes over, and these things can become overindulging. So what is it that you are eating in place of anger, emotional distress, upset, lack, and just a matter of not being happy? We began to look at our appetites and the 100 Days of Discipline Journey group through parts work coaching, and we began to dig deep to find the very root of what was causing our lack of discipline in many various areas. The IFS model of parts work coaching became an amazing treat to many. Out of over 100 people, about half of those people received parts work coaching. The other half, or just shy of it, may have received UnBurdening meditation, a specialty run by yours truly, Coach Portia. Why UnBurdening meditation? Once we begin to dive into our parts and truly get to the root of our anger and our emotional distress and why we were doing certain things, we began to understand why we were not disciplined in certain areas. The unburdening came in when we began to use a very powerful model of practice that we called the power of practice. Once we began to practice, when we practice, there is no error. Why? Because we're constantly practicing toward this discipline journey and within the discipline journey. So the power of practice became very, very vital in what we were doing. And unburdening meditation became about 90% of what we were doing every 10 days throughout the 100 Days of Discipline Journey group. We discovered the power of practice, a motto that I used for this amazing challenge. This challenge, through practice, many found that it eased the pain of that amazing word, discipline. When we think of discipline, we often think of being chastised. That was totally not the issue here. The discipline that we incurred and afforded ourselves was the great power of practice. When we begin to think of practice, it just made the essence toward discipline light, easy, free, and more so fun. We had so much fun throughout these challenge days, even though it was a challenge for many. Many found that their struggles were due to fear. We learned that using and going deep with parts work. Parts work is an amazing tool that we use to measure our inner divine essence, who we truly are at our core. Many received this amazing parts work liaisoning that we did, where I became the liaison between the person and their parts and discipline. What parts work coaching did was it assisted with many going within themselves to find the amazing answers that they needed to go forth in their discipline journey, week to week, moment by moment. We found that while we had this great support of parts work, even greater were the unburdening meditations. Many ended up living for these halfway through the journey. We set milestones for ourselves every 10 days with check-ins and checkups where I would go virtual, and many had a platform of reaching out to me. We use this open platform as a great support system and a great tool to keep each other going. I became everyone's partner. I became everyone's accountability partner. Yet we had buddy systems within the group. If people were comfortable, they were buddying with one another. If someone was disciplining water intake, they wanted to get more water in, they would discipline with someone else who's also doing the same thing. And it became an encouraging buddy system for many. How do we learn to be unstuck, to move forward? The great power of group. The great power of where 2 or 3 are gathered. We came up with this amazing effort to show cause, to be accountable, not just to self, but also within the group. We did posting on social media in the group that was once public. The group is now private, because as we go deeper into the journeys, everyone wanted to feel free in the presence of themselves and their parts. So for that, we created yet another layer of sacredity for each person, so that everyone's free within the group to be, to share, and to continue to thrive on a one-on-one as well as a group level. The power of practice became an amazing, great effort. I use this motto because it was the best kept secret that I've used for many years. I've tested this not just on myself, but on many others prior to making and creating the 100 Days of Discipline Journey group. Again, everyone had a different approach. No one's journey was quite the same. But what we learned was how to be unstuck, how not to sit in our woes and in our fears, and we got close to those parts that were where we were living in those parts that were bound, that were not free, that were full of fear, guilt, shame. We found that these were some of the things that were holding us back to obtaining true discipline within our lives. Why through discipline? Why through this model of practice? Discipline leads to self-leadership, which is the apex of parts work coaching. We want to get everyone, help facilitate their journey to self-leadership. How do we do that? Is within and through our parts, unburdening those parts, and learning to live out of our unburdened portions of ourselves. The more we live out of our unburdened portions, the parts that are no longer stuck, yet needing assistance and support along the way, we begin to live life more full. We begin to become creative. Do you know how many visions and businesses grew just within 2 years of us doing this powerful power of practice, learning discipline day after day, 100 days at a time? Many formed groups. I've seen businesses blossom. I've seen people just take on their own and become a fearless entity to be reckoned with, yet humbly given. I've seen the hundreds of people that are there just moving out of their way. Although this was a very small group, some say 100 people is not small, but because this was a very small group, meaning we didn't have 50,000 people or 5,000 people, but because the group was this small and intimate, I was able to give support and guidance to everyone who reached out for parts work coaching and or unburdening meditation. I became the liaison for not just life living, but for future living, for ancestral living, because now those that are in the discipline journey group, they were now teaching their children how to live out of this amazing power of practice and disciplining in a way of greatness. So emotional eating, just sort of getting back to that topic. Appetites. Everything is down to appetites and why we chose this power of practice to begin to discipline ourselves. Appetites is something that has been with us from day one. What is one of the first things that we do after we look at our amazing babes after they're born is how much did they weigh and how much are they eating? And of course, at some point, how much are they sleeping? So with that, everyone's concerned about what's going in the mouth. This thing has been with us spiritually from day one. And also, it was tainted from day one. Our appetites were tainted from day one. Now, there are many forms of appetites, which we will not get into too much of that, but we want to talk about emotional eating. I think we can all understand eating. There's always something. I think many of us, most of us, would say that, oh, I can't have that, but I love it. Oh, I shouldn't have this, but I love it. Oh, as we get older, which was me going into my 50th year, what could I discipline that I've never disciplined before that is going to help me in my future? So these are the things that we begun to really look at. We really began to streamline. We really began to take a look to make sure what we're doing daily is not indulging and is controllable. So that with the power of practice, we began to discipline our emotional eating. Again, for some, it was money spending. Why am I doing that? Why every time I get upset? We began to go into that. Well, when do you spend money? Oh, I spend money every time I get upset. When do you eat that chocolate bar after having dinner and after already having dessert? Well, the chocolate soothes me. How long have you been doing that? Oh, about 10 years. We go back and look at these parts that are holding us back, so to speak. Yet we understand why those parts are there as we begin to get close to the parts, to understand why they're there, where they were birthed from, is usually to deal with something that was an emotional trigger for us, or something that happened and it caused us to get that chocolate or to indulge in that drink or to eat uncontrollably, feeding ourselves with anger, depression, woe, and just taking a look at these things. So being unstuck, we used a lot of unburdening meditation. What exactly is unburdening meditation? Once we find the root of where we are in parts work, and everyone comes up with their own answers. As your liaison, I am not a therapist finding the answers for you. The power is you going within, tapping within the resource and the sources of yourself and locating the answer. I wrote down something that I want to share with you. And it is, oh gosh, where was that? So your gifts are within yourself. Maturing your discipline uncovers who you truly are at your core. Speaking to yourself, speaking to your inner parts, multiplies who you are when you are able to receive the wisdom of even a burdened part. We begin to understand why these parts exist within us and the wisdom that is actually there. These burdened parts, anger, depression, upset, being stuck, these truly have a place and a job to do. Once we receive and retrieve the wisdom through guided parts work, through guided meditation many times, through parts work and through guided meditation, we begin to truly understand who we truly are at our core. We begin to unburden, and we begin to unburden well. This power of practice and parts work and unburdening meditation allows us to take a journey within. The journey of the 100 Days of Discipline Journey group becomes not just a challenge anymore, but it truly becomes an experience that will last you a lifetime. I've had people that attended the first 100 Days of Discipline Journey group with me, and they are still talking about it. The excitement, we ask those parts to often soften back because we want to instill within us a way of life. So this 100 Days of Discipline Journey group becomes an important model for each person because it's their own footprint throughout their time. So that 100 days becomes creative for them. It becomes an expression of who they truly are. They understand themselves. They understand their struggles. They understand their parts. They learn what parts is. They understand and begin to live out of their own self-leadership. It's not just me telling you what to do because that's not my job at all. As your liaison, I simply help you along the way. And that help along the way is again through many guided meditations and also through the amazing tool of parts work. We begin to define who we are. Our emotional eating becomes more of an understatement where we understand and we become grateful to the parts that once were burdened. And we often visit those parts, and we visit the ones that housed those parts for us, although we're the ones that help experience them. With parts work, you are a universe unto yourself. Each individual is a universe unto themselves. So you get a lot of parts work teaching. I teach parts work language, the way parts speak, and we begin to get close to our parts and truly understand these amazing parts. And then with individual parts work coaching, as well as group guided meditations, we begin to uncover and discover who we truly are at our core. Being stuck in that quicksand becomes a river of running water. Together, we move mountains in the 100 Days of Discipline Journey group. An essence of just true greatness. We find many lose weight. We find many, again, just moving out of their way. We find many that have trouble meditating and, oh, my mind is everywhere now because they've practiced. They use the power of practice. They're meditating 30 minutes at a time, an hour at a time. They're using their day to not just indulge or feed themselves with burdened parts, but they're learning to live out of the parts that are now unburdened. And they're also learning to give air and rise to the burdened parts because they're beginning to understand how to live and how to speak to those parts that are burdened. So we learn a lot over time. I know I've said a lot, but this is one group that has just been amazing. We become journey kings and journey queens together as we hold hands virtually as well as one-on-one physically in person. A lot of the people in the group range from, I think we might have had someone in China, we may have had someone, one or two people in Asia. Most people are from here, North America, and a lot within the U.S. A lot of people on the East Coast. We had maybe 2 or 3 out of California. We've had some in the tri-state. And out of that, you guys, from this, I've traveled abroad with some of them, meeting them, engaging to them one to another. This becomes not just a virtual group, But we also began to do meetups in person, where we attend group meetups. We did Tampa Bay this year in 2022, which is the motto for my business, Sit, Sip, and Chat LLC. I'm birding you in 2022. So we began to do tours now within and among those that would have me come. We went to Tampa Bay, where we housed about 12 to 15 people at an amazing local cafe. And we just sat there and spent hours together. We had the place to ourselves, and it was amazing. We began to unburden together in person. And if you think virtually is amazing, it's that much potent when we sit together and we just vibe and just unburden together. So we did Tampa Bay, we did South Carolina, we did Jamaica, where we met up with an amazing group of women, and we had some of the women, a percentage of the women that actually did unburdening with us on the beach for Mother's Day, and it was powerful. Last year in 2021, we went to Mexico twice and we unburdened there. The year before that, we went to Mexico as well, but that was like leading into the 100 Days of Discipline Journey group. It was absolutely phenomenal, and we had an amazing time. So what we began to do is set up tours, both within Connecticut and outside of Connecticut as well. Presently, we are doing a virtual, an in-person meetup series in West Hartford, Connecticut. So we've aligned ourselves with a therapist there who is just absolutely amazing to open her facility to house this discipline journey as well. So we also do a journeys within a journeys, or something that I call fast tracking. So this 10-week series, we're doing specifically unburdening meditations using parts work. So we're not really doing a lot of coaching. It's more so my specialty of unburdening meditation. So a little bit about me, just as we begin to close out, is that I am an unburdening meditation host, and I am also a liaison for unburdening meditation through parts work model that I use with the unburdening meditation. I pair the two tools together because they're just powerful. They're just powerful in that way, and they work. I've been doing meditation since I was about 19 years old. I learned from a very important source, which is my brother, who has traveled the world in both military and outside of it. And he's studied many forms of different various religions with meditation, and we sort of came up with our own, which we've always called unburdening meditation. So I've been doing this for many, many, many years. The unburdening meditation that I specifically use is something I use called breath to breath. So anytime that someone is in front of me, or I'm being liaison to someone with unburdening meditation, I use something I call breath to breath, which is basically spirit to spirit or light to light. Always seeing that spark, that speck in everyone. And we begin to speak to that speck, allowing that flicker to become brighter and brighter and brighter. Little did I know that I was using parts work the entire time, until I understood and learned the technique of parts work coaching, who I specifically learned through my guru, Dr. Guthrie Sion. If you want to learn more about 100 Days of Discipline, please reach out to me, 203-350-6779. That is a call-in line and not a text line. So if you're trying to text that number, I'm never going to get it. It's a call-in line. Please call me. Let's get together. Sign up for the next 100 Days of Discipline Journey group, and even sign up for city tours. If you want me to come to your city, we do it, guys. We do it. So we come to the cities, your towns, and we help unburden. We help you to become unstuck. We teach parts work, and we teach a little bit about parts, and we teach a lot about unburdening meditation using parts work. Also, you can also visit my website, sitsipchat.com. You will learn that sit, sip, and chat is an acronym for meditations that I use very heavily in my meditations. So Sit, Sip, and Chat LLC, which is my coaching business, is basically that Sit, Sip, and Chat is actually an acronym for meditation that I use very heavily when I'm doing unburdenings. So visit my website. Look me up on social media platforms. I am on Facebook often. There's actually a 100 Days of Discipline Journey group on Facebook, so you can link to me there. And if you want 100 Days of Discipline Journey group, if you have 15 to 20, 25 people or more, please call me in. I become your liaison for unburdening meditation, and I also become your liaison to help you understand parts, where you'll have sessions, 30-minute to 40-minute sessions. Each person is allotted some time. I use specific time to set aside just for the groups. So if you're serious about this, and if you really want to use the power of practice to discipline yourself into self-leadership, get unstuck, and be well, please link to me. I'm a member of the MBA Center for Joint Ventures, so please link to me there. I am also an International Coaching Federation member and certified through them as well. I am also a part of the International Coaching Federation Connecticut chapter. So link to me there. I'll see you around on social media, and I'll talk to you soon. With that, one love and be well. Peace.